Okay, so this is a call based around how to command the income you deserve as a functional consultant. And what we're specifically talking about is getting a new Oracle role. Okay, so I'll just start with the presentation now. I know Connor is just about to dial in. Okay, so just bear with me for a sec now, and I'll share my screen. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, Connor. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
We can now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think my phone was whatever happened, it wasn't working, so I just got on my desktop with my headphone here instead. So yeah, sounds good, guys.
Okay, sounds good. So I just did a short intro. So what the call is about kind of the concept of commanding the income you deserve as a functional consultant. We know that there have been many changes with in the last few years. At least I've seen a number of changes over the last around 20 odd years that I've been working in Oracle EBS. And there are more changes to come with cloud, and I think the introduction of new technologies like machine learning and artificial intelligence. I saw one or two of you ask questions about what the role of artificial intelligence will be on the Oracle functional job. So let's talk a little bit about that towards the end of the program. So just to introduce the co-presenters first. So my name is Aidan Duffy. I'm an Oracle e-business consultant. I've been working independently, that's as a self-employed consultant now for 19 years, I think. So I started off as a technical guy, and I sort of quickly realized that I wasn't as valuable to clients on projects as I could be, or there were other roles on a project that were seemed to be more valuable to the team, and they were getting retained on a project when I was getting let go or moved on to a different project. So I guess I decided to transfer then to functional to kind of future-proof my career and move away from the threat of my role being offshored. So the second person presented on the call is Connor. So Connor, would you like to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. So I'm really passionate about Oracle. I'm not a functional consultant like Aidan, but I work on the recruitment side. So Aidan's definitely right in terms of the functional side. It's much more valuable at the moment than the technical side. That trend is likely to continue. So I kind of know the skill sets of the market that are in demand and the trends that are happening as well. So just kind of here to share my knowledge and learn and kind of meet some kind of great functional consultants for now and for the future. So thanks very much for having me, Aidan.
No worries. So what we decided to do sort of between us was to have this call to kind of put our minds together. That's a consultant who works getting independent contracts in the market, and Connor, who knows the market from the recruitment side. Because I guess it's been after swinging one way and the other over many years, what I discovered is that a recruiter is actually a kind of a key partner in your career, because they probably they definitely understand the market better than you, and they possibly understand you better than you know yourself, and kind of what your skills are based on a number of conversations with a recruiter. It's one thing I recommend to develop knowledge with, to develop relationships with recruiters. I know one or two recruiters since my very first contract, and I still stay in touch with them. They're trusted confidants, and because we're basically all in the trenches together, and that's why I kind of maintain that you should develop a relationship with recruiters. And so let's talk about that as we go through the call, okay? So from an agenda point of view, I guess what I recommend is go functional, I know there are some people who are already functional consultants on the call, but there are people transferring in already. So I'll just talk about why I think the functional is the bulletproof kind of career option for the jobs that are either the ones we're currently in or the ones that are adjacent that we can transfer into. We'll talk a little bit about working with recruiters, some market analysis, and Connor's going to give us some tips on CV based on what he's seen, and talk a little bit about LinkedIn, which I guess is kind of part of the hiring process from a candidate screening point of view, and a little bit about interview preparation, and then we'll talk about a functional launchpad program that I have running at the moment. Connor, feel free to chip in as we're going through the presentation, because I guess part of the reason for having you on the call is to add your value, because you're talking to the hiring managers. Okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, so from just in terms of why I recommend to go functional, I think the opportunities are better. I'll show a slide in a minute. I think from a functional point of view, you're going to be useful over the full life cycle of a project. I think the clients tend to be bigger clients in Oracle EBS. The projects, for my money, are better anyway. The salaries would be, I think there's still a slight increment or an uplift between functional and technical. And if you consider that a lot of technical work is being offshore, then there's a big difference between the daily rate for a functional onshore versus a technical onshore. For me, I travel for work. I spent a year in Prague and a year in Amsterdam. I've traveled in most of the major European capitals. And lately, I have a family now, so I've kind of less interest in traveling, so I've been working from home. So both kind of options are possible if you do kind of functional work, I think. You can work for yourself. I'm a career contractor now, I think, much as Connor has tried to tempt me with a few permanent roles, but nothing that I'd be interested in at the moment. I think I'm looking for myself too long. I think functional compared to technical or DBA is less outsourceable. And we'll talk a little bit about that in relation to the question on artificial intelligence. Excellent question that we got. If you're offshore, I think the chances to migrate to US or Europe for work are really high. I know several people who used to work for Accenture got onshore and spent long enough to become resident, and now they're actually contracting themselves. So it's really a significant achievement to go all the way from offshore in India to building up your skills, to be onshore, then get taken on as a permanent job and be considered at the same level as onshore guys. So that's possible. Speaking from my own personal perspective, I guess it really changed my outlook and gave me great both personal and professional experience that I wouldn't swap. I think the challenges of functional and of independent consulting, I think it gave me a professional and an emotional maturity that I probably achieved a little bit earlier than you would have done otherwise, because you tend to get dropped in at the deep end. Changed where I live. I moved countries a couple of times, and now, as I say, I'm kind of happier to stay at home. I've made really good friends, and I think there's nothing like the friendships that you forge with on a really difficult project where you come out the other end, and these are really people that you can trust, because you've had to trust them to get through the project sometimes, and I guess it's changed what I think personally I can achieve and what's possible for me. I'm interested in developing alternative revenue streams to consulting, and I've had my book published, and I guess these are avenues that I don't think I would have considered if I hadn't have been exposed to just the possibilities that are out there. So I just wanted to talk about, because I know there's some people on the call that maybe aren't that familiar with functional, but if we take an EBS project timeline, and this is it's very high level, but these are the 6 key skills, objectives, requirements, design, build, test, and transition. And the functional consultant, the reason I recommend to go functional is because they're useful at every phase of the project. So the only person that sees more of a project than a functional person is a project manager, and there's only ever one project manager. So there would be one functional per stream lead. So in the objectives phase, you might do a month or 2 weeks of objectives, and it's functional and business. In the requirements, it's functional and business. In the design, functional technical DBA. Build, functional technical DBA. Test, functional technical business. And transition, functional DBA. That's kind of the reason why I really suggest that you go or develop your full functional skill set, because if you don't, and the problem that I hit was I was a technical guy, so I was only really useful during design and build, maybe a little bit of test. So I guess if you just consider one atomic project on its own, if you can be valuable for 2 phases or 2.5 phases, or you can be valuable for 6 phases, then functional is the way to go. And if you currently do functional work, but you haven't done transition or cutover yet, or you haven't done objectives yet, then I really recommend you get those skills. The second part to this is that this is a new business suite project. So cloud, part of the benefits of cloud is that it's much shorter. So it's an e-business project, which is quite a short one. It would be 10 months long. A cloud might be 5 months to do the same thing. So if you don't have the full functional skill set, you're looking at a much shorter time on the same client. So for me, if you're technical or if you're not full functional skill set, that's why I really recommend you need to develop the full functional skill set to move up the value chain. And it'll be interesting to see how the cloud kind of affects the length of the project. But from a purely personal perspective, EBS projects are 12 months to 18 months long. So if you had to travel somewhere, you could go and sort of, like I know people who move the family over, but if you're on a cloud project and it's 6 months long, then there's more up and then moving, there's more kind of hassle, and you need to be able to do the full functional skill set. Otherwise, you're going to be moving around every 2 or 3 months. So we just pulled together some data on the permanent salaries, just to give you an idea of what the relationship is between permanent and contract. Connor, I don't know if you can talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, definitely. It was actually a slide there, though, with the future. Interestingly, like if you look at those project titles, those names and the salaries as well, is that a lot of project managers, there's a lot of business people, there's not a lot of functional people. It's kind of a technical skill. You want to be paid the highest. You want to sell the project the longest and get paid the most. That would be the right skill to go for. In terms of daily rate and permanence, there's different things you need to take into consideration. You can kind of see the figures there. That's all in Europe. So a permanent or a business kind of functional person might earn 60k, and you'd be working on a few different things. But interesting, on the contract side, you'd be working on good projects rather than the maintenance work, kind of the development work, kind of talking to users, kind of solving problems. Where if you're permanent, you might have a project once every 3-4 years, so it's not as interesting. And there's a few considerations taken in the contract as well, and I think I can see the details today now after it. So there's a few things there. The long term, you will earn a lot more money, and in general, the world is going towards this thing called the gig economy. So you might hear these phases, and they are. It basically means there's more contract jobs available, and there's shorter time frames. So they're definitely put in more money and working more interesting projects. And just there's one slide before that, Aidan has talked about outsourcing. You can definitely notice the PS SQL market. A lot of these PS SQL developers, sometimes they graduate e-business developers. That market is really doing badly in Ireland at the moment, and the UK actually as well. That a lot of the demand is automated, put to outsource to India and China, these places. and these people are trying to kind of change the skill sets into functional, which probably make sure the value add is there, because functional means you need to physically be there, meet the people, or Skype them anyway, kind of understand the communication skills, where the other bits and pieces like the PS SQL coding can be done from anywhere. So if you do want to get a better skill set and kind of have a more long-term job, in 20, 30 years, functional would be the one that would still be there, because there'll still be people involved. So yeah, that was kind of my 2 cents anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from my own perspective, I've been contracting for 19 years now, and the scale, there's not that much of a divergence, but over 18 or 19 years, it's a huge divergence. A lot of the people that I went to college with, there's 5 people I know who studied programming with me in IT, and the 2 or 3 of them are directors now, so they're catching up. They're on the 110 odd around now, but it's taken them 17 or 18 years to kind of get there. So I guess it's something you should consider anyway to see if it's for you. It doesn't suit anyone. It doesn't suit everyone, I suppose. But definitely for younger people or people in a solid market, I think it's a solid option. So then from working with recruiters' perspective, maybe I'll talk a little bit first, and then Connor as well can kind of chip in. So I get how I found recruiters originally was I was originally introduced to a recruiter who I still know. I guess the other good way to find a recruiter would be maybe to look at the job postings in your area and see who has a lot of the Oracle work. Because a recruiter is who doesn't have any Oracle jobs, I guess, isn't as useful as one who has a lot of work. So I guess Connor would work, I guess, the sort of unseen work to kind of build up links and kind of figure out where the roles are. Connor, would you agree?
Yeah, definitely not unseen work is right. I think people just think I have a stack of jobs, and when they call me, I have them. But in reality, there's a lot of different things involved. But yeah, sometimes that's the perception of these different.
Yeah, and then I mean, I guess in working with recruiters, the best thing for me anyway you can do is to just be upfront with a recruiter. If you say, look, I'm interested in transferring from technical into functional, or I have these skill sets, they'll often be the best informed in the local market, because it's difficult as a guy who's a technical or functional guy to kind of understand what's happening in the market, and that's where a recruiter can really help.
Definitely, what I found about them, sometimes people come and say, oh, look, where do I want to go in the future with Oracle? I'm a PS SQL developer, or I'm kind of an Oracle DBA, but I want to get in the functional. And I would say, hey, look, there's some training courses at Aiden or at Oracle University, and he's the ones that are in demand. And, you can do the course, here's the prices, and go check it out. And this guy's a very good trainer, so you can go talk to them as well. So you should just give advice to people if I can, if they're interested anyway. I might say, oh, you've got a great CV in this area, but to get to that level of where you want to be, this area needs to be worked upon, and to get that area level you want, you need to go get this training or get education with your company at the moment, or things like that in general. So not every recruiter unfortunately is like that. Some people are more transactional, not really building relationships. So as Aidan was saying, you kind of got to spot those. Just some tips on finding good recruiters. I would say if hopefully everyone's on LinkedIn, you can if you just kind of put into the LinkedIn bar Oracle Recruiter, Recruitment Oracle, e-business, if you keywords like that, should be a few people come up in your local area, and maybe just try and add them. You should be active on social media. You should be good. I don't know if there's any direct correlation between activity on social media or not, but there seems to be the ones I've noticed are quite active, and I was involved in Oracle meeting as well for Ireland, so a lot of people through that as well. Oh, you're interested? Like, oh yeah, I go and talk and try to meet people there as well. So just trying to get involved that way. I think people are more active and they're interested in technology rather than the transactional relationship, as I said. I find that in your CV, and then respond to, or I'll put for a job and you never hear back, and that can be very frustrating because you put a lot of hard work in the CV, you really like the job, and you never hear like that. And yeah, you want to build a relationship. So just keep an eye out for those people. And sometimes they come out with a job and you're interested in, so you got to still sometimes work with them. But if you find them actually interested in what you want to do in the future, and are keeping in touch with you even when you're in a job, like, oh look, I contacted you here. They're the ones that'll kind of look after you, and Aidan has a few relationships that work really well. And one thing Aidan's quite good at as well is he said, oh, there's a guy here looking for a job, and he said, oh, pass along his details. And I love, as a recruiter, I love that. So I know that Aidan's great, and if anyone were to recommend it next week, I introduce him or in detail, or at least said, I think he heard him in Pfizer before. So that would be a great result, because I feel comfortable with the candidate putting them forward. I know they're going to be good, and the CV matches what they're saying. And then also, I think hopefully Aidan feels good because he's doing a favour for a friend as well. And the guy who's getting the job feels great because he's like, okay, this recruiter, he must be good if Aidan recommended him. So it's kind of a circle of trust there that goes around. Just one last thing as well is there's a new trend happening towards recruiters not being in your country. So there used to be the time, oh, if I'm looking for a job in Ireland, you call up a recruiter and they're based in Dublin usually, or Ireland anyway. That's fine. There's a trend in the future that recruiters will be based in different countries. So let's say you're applying for a job, you're based in, I'm just using Ireland because I don't know where everyone is in the call, but anyway, you're based in Ireland as a job in another city in Ireland, and you can sometimes meet the recruiter, kind of talk to them. You're kind of, you're from the same place, so it's easy to have something in common. But the new trend is someone from a foreign country might call you up and say, oh, you're interested in the job, and they won't meet you. It can be a bit harder to communicate. The flow isn't there as well, and it can feel a bit more transactional. So that's a trend for the future to be wary of. So if I was working with a guy and he had a colleague in Romania call him about jobs, and the Romanian accent was a bit tricky to understand, and the call, the line wasn't great either, so he came off that call thinking, I don't know what happened there. But that's a new trend anyway to be wary of, and you're still going to hopefully get the same service and kind of get the job at the end, but you kind of have to be patient as well. So
yeah, that's true. I have noticed recently a lot of people who seem to be recruitment agencies who just sort of skim LinkedIn for a CV, for a profile, let's say, and then they say, I've got a lot of interviews or things about jobs in Italy, which is obviously not even close to my home country, but you'd wonder sometimes that people don't understand the geography of the situation. So I guess the recruiters that I know, there's nothing like getting to know someone because then you can use your instincts kind of whether to stay in touch with them. So I think it's worth developing a relationship from that point of view. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about developing a partnership with recruiters from LinkedIn. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I actively kind of seek out people in terms of connections. One of the things I find most useful is when someone moves job, you can tell because 9 times out of 10 you can tell where they moved to. So that's a lead for a new opportunity for me. So, but someone that I know who's moved from one client to another, I can just think it's a good reason to get in touch and say, listen, is there anyone involved there? And there's also, LinkedIn is starting to be used, at least I think my perception is starting to be used a lot more for jobs. So you can set up an email alert to get functional jobs delivered to your inbox, and you don't even have to log into LinkedIn to go. I can see a couple of questions coming through. Would you mind just addressing the questions to Jonah, and then we'll kind of shoot through the presentation and take the questions at the end. Jonah Felizardo, okay? And then the other one that I find useful is a job board. At least if you don't know any recruiters in the area you want to work, at least you can see the recruiter names on the job posts. I really recommend getting to use a group events and meet-up groups. Also, I think it's rather than just kind of sitting at your desk and trying to do it all by email or over the phone, to actually meet someone face-to-face is kind of, as I say, you can use your personal instincts about people. So, Conor, maybe you can talk a little bit about what you see as a good CV and.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's so many different opinions to this topic, but I give my things that I like to look at for anyway. It's a few really simple things like just putting in an Arial font, usually 11 or 12 size. Make sure it's less than, I don't think anyone's CV should probably be more than 4 or 5 pages at max. If you're a grad or someone with less than 3 years experience, I definitely go for 2 pages. What I love is when people put in a skill set kind of matrix. So they might, you might work with 10 technologies or 10 different modules or something like that. So if someone says financials, or business financials, I worked at AOR 5 years. This is the project I worked it on. Then I can exactly see what you're good at. So usually the CV is very handy because I would study it and check someone on LinkedIn and then call them, ask them kind of more questions. But if I'm interested in the CV, I don't need to ask them so many questions on the call. I would just kind of more confirm things. So if on the CV they have, okay, I've worked at R11, I've worked at R12, I've done some training on Fusion. If it's really clearly laid out and they said these are skills that they have at the moment, and then second page is more so about the specific more project they did in each company. That's great, and at the very start, say where they want to go. So that's career objectives. So it might be how I want to become best in Ireland at or business financials functional. My goal is to complete that within 5 years. I'm taking these trainings and I'm working these projects, and then kind of go through that. That's what I really like. And then if there's references at the bottom, that's always good as well, because sometimes you want to verify people's work, and then we all put CVs that aren't going through. So you always want to double check that. What I'm finding a new trend is people put their LinkedIn references on CVs. I really like that as well. So sometimes people just take a screenshot of their references, on LinkedIn, and put them in the bottom of the CV. That's really good. But then I'm like, okay, there's what's called third-party validation. Somebody else saying you're great, not just yourself. So that's always kind of good to see as well. So yeah, that was kind of the basics anyway. There's lots of different variations of CVs. I know sometimes in the continent they put a picture of themselves as CV. Yeah, that's good as well. In Ireland, we don't really do that. And obviously the really basic stuff is supposed to put your contact details on. Always amazed when people don't put their phone numbers or email addresses on. I'm like, I don't know how to get in contact with this person. They've got a great CV. It's really frustrating. But yeah, those are the basics anyway. So yeah, Arial font, size 12, less than 4 pages is great. Where you want to go to start, skills matrix, and then after that, kind of more project details of each job as well, and any certifications, put them on as well. So yeah, that's kind of the best way to describe it, I suppose.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so that moves nicely onto LinkedIn. So I'm a big fan of LinkedIn because it's amazing the disparity between you get a great CV from someone and they have there's no LinkedIn profile, don't even have a picture, and it gives people, a hiring manager or a recruiter, a bit of extra security about to double check, cross check the CV with the LinkedIn profile on it. It turns them, it gives you a better idea, I think, because of the social aspects of it. You can kind of build up a picture of what the person might be like. I use it to build my network, as I mentioned earlier. I've strived to keep in touch with everyone that I've ever worked with on LinkedIn, so I've got around 3,000 LinkedIn connections, and because I can see people moving around, it gives me an immediate job lead on where my next role might be. So I'd be, if you can tell someone has a lot of connections, if they're 500 plus, then the chances are, if you ask politely, they will accept your invitation, or someone who's a member of the user group or another LinkedIn group. I would look, predominantly look at people who are in the news in Oracle functional or Oracle consulting areas, like the consultancy kind of CEOs would all share project success stories, so I'd be inclined to invite people like that. And if you put a lot of effort into your own LinkedIn profile, I think it does get you noticed. And I've been hired myself through LinkedIn directly, just because I put a bit of effort into my LinkedIn profile. And just from a reciprocation point of view, it's what I try to do is if something occurs to me that someone I know might be interested in that, I'll just send them the article by LinkedIn, and it does build up. It all serves to kind of build your relationship, so that if you need to ask for something in the future, or they might feel like doing you a favour.
No, I definitely agree with those points. What's always interesting is when people sometimes don't update their CV but do update their LinkedIn, so I have a quick check. Oh, the CV was updated 2 years ago, but look at their risk profile. They've gone and worked in, financial services industry, where in the past they're in pharmaceutical industry. That's always really interesting. And, people add me every day, and if people added a message saying, hey, I'm really interested in Oracle HCM, I'd like to add with you to find out about future opportunities of that. I'm like, okay, great. I'll send them a message back saying, look, send me your CV here. I'll keep you on file. I might give you a call to find out a bit more information. So don't be shy to add people. You know, if you add a little message, personal information, it does add a lot because it kind of says this is the reason why I want to add you. You know, I think, you know, in so many words, you want to say benefit to the person you're adding and the benefit to you as well. So if I was adding Aidan, let's say, I'd say, Aidan, I've seen your work with I Love Oracle. I think you're obviously very passionate about it. I'd like you to keep updated on your profile, and I'll also kind of keep you updated on what's happening in the market as well. So just write that little message on the way can add a good bit of reason there. And one thing as well is when people kind of endorse you for things, which is quite good, and also when people give you recommendations, I kind of talked about already. So if you fill out the profile, I was actually on my friend's LinkedIn the other day because she was just starting off, and I've actually noticed it's becoming a lot easier to fill in the information. It kind of made it easier as well. So if you just follow the steps they give you and become what's called an all-star LinkedIn profile, then you should be pretty good. So a lot of people copy and paste their CV in as well, which is surprisingly is good because you kind of have the details there. Now, not everyone wants to keep all their information away or put everything up there, but as much information you can is always better.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the LinkedIn is one that it is continually changing, and they try to make it more like social media, which some people don't like, but it does make it a bit more sticky in that you tend to spend a bit more, or at least I much prefer looking at a LinkedIn profile than a flat CV, because I guess I can see other people who work at different clients. I might ask for a reference on that person, that type of thing. So there's a lot more kind of interconnectedness with a LinkedIn profile, and I think you'd be foolish to ignore the power of that in the comfort factor that it can give and present you as more of a person. So I've been just what I want to do is give you a couple of the interview kind of techniques. I'm actually in the market at the moment myself, so I've been busy sort of researching the slides and kind of talking to Connor and the other recruiters that I know. So what I first do is a self-interview. So I created a short kind of sentence on what I do. It's one of the things that kind of confuses me. It's if someone asks you at a party, what do you do? Like it's a difficult thing to answer. So what I do is when large multinationals buy, sell, or reorganize their business, I implement the system changes to make that happen. So it's kind of a short, sort of an opening statement about what I've done. It points to the integration work that I've done, the fact that I work for a multinational. It means that I can work on mergers and acquisitions or reorganizations. It means that it tells people that I predominantly do implementation rather than support. And it tells people that I deliver because it contains the phrase, make that happen. So it took a fair bit of work to kind of figure out what my two-sentence would be. So what I use it is as an opening statement in an interview, and then kind of people ask questions, and it gives people a framework kind of for a discussion, let's say. So I do kind of, a lot of people always ask the strengths and weaknesses question. I have a certain amount of stuff done on my values, and then my experiences, accomplishments, or successes. From a research point of view, the first place I look will be LinkedIn. So once I figure out who the hiring manager is, I can tell what type of projects they've done. If they put on into LinkedIn, I can tell what they're interested in. I go and look at the company's website and see what their values are, what they stand for, and just sort of do some due diligence. But the one that I like really is LinkedIn, because I can see what background the person is. If they're a DBA, are they going to be more interested in security? If they're an ex-business person, are they going to be they'll probably ask more questions about businesses and processes. And then from a practice point of view, I kind of review previous interviews. It's been quite a while since I've done an interview now. I did one last February. And because I had, which I was successful with, and because I had a banker client before that, it was, I think, 8 years since my last interview. So a little bit of practice doesn't go astray, and that's something I think that you should talk to your recruiter about as well, as kind of what type of things is this person interested in, because the recruiter will definitely have had more conversations with the hiring manager than you will, and they'll kind of have an idea of what type of candidate that hiring manager likes.
No, this is really, really good, Aidan. I hadn't seen the slide before, but it was really good. This is like industry leading, so if you guys to call, like, this is what you should be doing. Just a bit about the research. There's a real trend among millennials, people under age of 30, 35 in general, is that they don't do much research at all, and it really shows up in the industry. A lot of people skim the website for 2 minutes or click the Wikipedia, and that's it. And you need to do maybe an hour and a half. Now, people are going for multiple jobs, they're working, they got friends and family and things going on as well. But it is worth doing doing that work, because it does stand on the interview. And, you know, I was actually talking to a client yesterday, and they were kind of giving me feedback about the interview. And they said, you know what, the person wasn't very enthusiastic about the company, and they didn't seem to know much, and for that reason, we're going to say no. And I was like, really? But technically they were good, you know, the communication was good, yeah, but, you know, if they fit in, we feel like they might leave after years. There's a stopgap. So I was kind of like, okay. So I gave the feedback to the person, and they said, yeah, that's fair enough. So they obviously weren't willing to kind of fight for it either. So it kind of probably worked out for both parties, because they weren't really too interested. Now, as a contractor, you are there for a short time, but, you know, they're usually paying a lot of money for you, so they want to kind of get the maximum out of it. So, you know, it takes an hour and a half of your time to kind of research it properly. Kind of go through that, then it's worth it. And the points Aidan has there are actually quite good in terms of going through that. When I'm working with candidates and they say to me, oh, please send me interview tips, or they call me and say, look, give me all the information you have in the company, you have it's not online. I'm like, this is great. This is the candidate who's going to get the job, you know, because this person's motivated. A lot of people just want to do the bare minimum and that they have to do to get the job, but if you make that extra steps, we'll get it. A good example is last Tuesday, a guy called me and said, you know, you told me that another guy didn't interview last week. What exactly did he not do well? Where did he fall down on? And I was like, okay, this guy's really switched on. He really wants to know. So I had to say, look, let me just ask the other guy first if I can share that information. And the other guy said, yeah, that's fine. So that was okay. So then I went back and said, oh, he didn't have enough. This was a little bit different, but it was about AWS. The guy didn't have enough commercial experience with AWS. And we talked about it, he didn't have any good examples. So I was able to kind of give that to the next guy. And he did a good interview, so he was really happy with that. But he's really motivated because he's asking me for information instead of me giving him information. So that's a great relationship to have. And, you know, on this call here, we're trying to talk about generalities. But actually, the reason I thought the slide was so good is because it actually goes into specifics of what you should do. So, you know, stuff there is, you know, be positive, enthusiastic, important to your values, things like that. Sounds simple, but, you know, it's the sum of simple things make great things, as they say. So, yeah. Usually when I'm preparing for interviews, I do send them LinkedIn profiles of people who are interviewing, send them kind of key questions, send them jobs again, stuff like that. Not every recruiter is as thorough, I would say, but if you can be yourself or get the information you need for the job you want, and, you know, get that information. And you do a good interview, usually, you know, you can get better paid as well in the future. So if you did a good interview, they're very happy to extend you, or, you know, it's a first impression really, so it's you want to make a good one. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember early on in my contracting career, I did an interview. I was working for Oracle in London at the time, and I really loved it over there. And 3 or 4 months later, the contract ended. 3 or 4 months later, I did an interview for another place down the road, and I got up at I got up at 5 in the morning to get the plane to go over. And I thought I did an okay interview, but the feedback that came back was that the guy, he didn't really seem to be totally interested. And I thought, oh my God, I really wanted that one, and that's never going to happen again. So now I really do a ton of preparation, and I always say at the end, I'm interested in this role. I like this aspect of it or that aspect of it, so that there can be no doubt. Your only chance is when you're in the room with the hiring manager to convince them, number one, that this guy is going to be okay to work with, which is really important, and two, that they have the skills, and also that they're interested in the job. So that happened to me once, and I said it's never going to happen again.
Yeah, just actually interesting you say that. I'm working with a large reinsurance company, so like insurance, and they give a score of 20 for every interview, and 4 of the points are for interest and enthusiasm for the job. 4, that's what, 20%. So I mean, no matter what skills that you have, you can hopefully ace that one. But I was like, oh, that's quite a lot. 4 points. So it's kind of culture fit kind of stuff. But just enthusiasm and interest in the job, and Aidan's right. Like you say at the end, like, I'm really interested in this job. Tell me, you know, what kind of person you're looking for. How do I match against that? And stuff like that would be good. So yeah.
Okay, and this slide is actually from my book. So if you like this, there's more of it in the book. It's available on Amazon. So I'll just talk about comparing opportunities then. So sometimes it can be difficult to figure out, well, what do I want and what am I interested in? And this is slide just tries to get it down on paper for a couple of different things to consider around salary and pay, around location. You know, you got to think about tax or the effect that the location is going to have on your relationships, let's say. The Oracle Apps version, if it's, you know, specific about the role, specific about the project, are there consultants involved? Is it mostly permanent people? Are they used to having contractors on site? And experience-based, is it just a stepping stone? Is it going to get you where you want to go? You see there's a short-term or a long-term thing. And those are a couple of things I think that are useful to consider. So from a next steps point of view, and we'll move on to the questions there shortly, I think just to review your CV and LinkedIn profile versus the 6 key skills. Develop a relationship with recruiters. If you're transferring into functional, think about where you're coming from. So if you're coming from technical, you're going to be stronger at the technical focused key skills. If you're coming from functional, you're going to, from a business, you're going to be stronger at the business ones, and then you can build up the rest of the 6 key skills. 6 key skills are objectives, requirements, design, build, test, and transition. So just a couple of minutes about my program. So I've got an online program. It's a functional consultant launchpad. What it is for people who are transferring into functional or people who want to develop the full functional skill set. It's online, it's self-paced. And we go in a deep dive session on 6 key skill sets. So in each of the skills, we use the Oracle Unified Method, which is Oracle's methodology, to kind of describe what the process is in creating that document. So it's the system context diagram where you're describing the architecture of how Oracle fits in with the external systems. And we go into detail of how to get the information, how to record the information and be useful, and what the advantages of knowing that information gives you as an Oracle consultant. That might be part of the requirements. We also talk about use case modeling and the various kind of leading OUM techniques. I've got some white papers on each key skill set as well, and example documents. So I've currently got a discount. If anybody's interested, I'll give you some contact details after the call. Just a couple of bonuses as well. So I've got a LinkedIn profile and CV review, a job specification review, and some personal coaching as well. And I've also done some SQL for business analysts, which is kind of puts you ahead in terms of if you're coming from the business side. And I've got a LinkedIn course for functional consultants as well, and I'll introduce you to people in my, it's heading for 3,000 LinkedIn network. So I guess if there's, it would be very unusual if you live in Europe and I don't know someone in a company where you want to work. So you should bear that in mind in terms of networking and kind of getting introduced to type of clients that you're interested in. So the way the program is worked, you can either do the full program, which is 6 key skills, or you can break it down into objectives and requirements, design and build, test and transition. So there are 4 programs. 1, the full 6 key skills, 2, objectives and requirements, 3, design and build, and test and transition. And we'll be following up with the details, and you can go and have a look at the program and ask me any questions. Just a bio on myself, so I won't go through this in great detail, just kind of some of the stuff that I've done. And Connor's with a very impressive picture, Connor. Not sure that doesn't look like an Oracle user group event, I have to say.
No, that was right of your bash. Yeah, the Oracle users weren't invited to that one, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to go and look at, I'll probably try and pick up a few of the questions, okay? So
just before the questions, Aidan, I've referred a few, just to say, I know we're both covered, but I've referred a few people to Aidan's course for that, and they've enjoyed it, they've improved their skills set, and I've got one of them a job, so that was good. But that's over the last 12 months, so you know, it does happen, and you know, it can only happen if you make it work. The only thing I say, there is a commitment to make, and if you're really interested, you know, you're going to do really well. But just make sure you know, when you go into it, you're going to go do it well, because sometimes it can be frustrating to start off and you look at it like, oh no, so we have to kind of commit to it. And, you know, I don't really talk about the benefits, so when you get into it, you'll enjoy it, but make sure you give it a good run first.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Connor, for the recommendations. So a couple of questions there. So a question from John about what are the relevant tech skills in Fusion Cloud environments in e-business with SQL and PL SQL? The answer from my perspective is I'm not 100% sure. Connor, I don't know if you've had any experience on placing technical around Fusion Cloud.
Yeah, there's no jobs at all.
Okay.
It's all functional jobs. So the way they set up Fusion and Cloud, I think the names always get kind of used. I think they are actually different. But anyway, the way they set it up is they don't want people kind of technically modifying the skills. So I work with a company in Ireland who take the SQL and edit everything through Oracle. That's great. But the new versions of Oracle, they don't want you to do anything. It's just an out-of-box solution that's there. So the long-term thing is they don't want any technical people at all, because that's an extra cost. They want everything just kind of lots and lots of variations of software there for you to use. So they really need functional people, and technical people in the long term are probably going to get squeezed out. And most technologies are going towards that. Things like Salesforce, you know, as well. There's loads of Salesforce, but there's very few Salesforce developer jobs, if you ever noticed that as well.
Really?
So it's same thing can happen to Oracle. Yeah, so SQL honestly would be technology I'd recommend a lot of people now don't go towards that. You know, I like to get into Oracle, but I'm saying there's lots of other areas. PL SQL is not the one. So technical cloud, you know, there's a reason why you've never heard that phrase before, but it probably doesn't exist and probably never will. So yeah. Hopefully answers your question.
Yeah, it's funny. There's one because cloud is so new and nobody's really sure exactly how to implement it. I heard of a big project where they tried to do it the kind of cloud way with no technical aspect and no integration for a large multinational, and they had to stop the project and start it again. And they now do it more of a way where they get data in and they do actually have APIs and a little bit of PL SQL to extract data out of one module in cloud out to an external system to do specific pricing or some kind of functionality that Oracle Cloud, even as many bells and whistles as it's supposed to have, it couldn't do what they wanted to do, and then they get the data back in. And this, even in the same module, the data was going in and out of Oracle, so several times to offer functionality that even cloud couldn't do. So I guess for me, right now there is probably a little bit of integration with cloud, and there's probably a lot of reporting and stuff that which are, I guess, technical jobs. But in the future, I think all that popular functionality will get subsumed into the standard cloud product, and I don't see a long-term future in cloud for technical. That's why I moved from technical into functional. When I started at Pfizer, there were 40-odd technical guys, and now there's one left. So if I hadn't transferred from tech to functional, there's no way I'd still be there. Simple as that. So John is also asking about HCM release 12 roles one can do while trying to transition into Fusion Cloud. So I'm not an expert on HCM, I guess, but it's like any module. I mean, if it's release 12, at least there are environments available where you can practice and kind of learn the functionality. In Fusion, there are no public Fusion environments available because of the cost that I think in maintaining them. I know HCM cloud environments are available at cost, I think, if you buy training courses. So you could look at a couple of those options. I'll try to put together a list and send it out to the people who registered after the call. And John is saying that he can't hear, so that's a technical issue, and we'll kind of follow up with that. Is there anyone on the call that wants to ask a question at this point? Or Connor, you still have some time to hang around?
Yeah, sure. Just about the HCM, what you need to look at for HCM jobs in general, regardless of cloud or e-business, is you need to look for really large companies, really, really big companies. Oracle business teams of minimum 10 people, because HCM is, for an individual person to do it all the time, is quite a lot of work. So I would recommend, if you are going for Ireland, I don't know where you're from, but I presume it's UK or something like that, I would definitely look more so at consultancies, because they have HCM people that would kind of go into the companies to do bits and pieces, or look for very large companies. Someone like Morrison's would have a HCM company. They're like a Tesco. It's a big supermarket chain in the UK. They would have a HCM person, but there wouldn't be a whole lot of them. Like financials would be very popular. HCM is not as popular. In Ireland, there's another technology called Core HR that kind of has really cornered the HR market, and Oracle HCM is not very strong in Ireland. But in UK, it's a little stronger. So I would just focus on really, really big companies for that in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a cloud perspective, there's not a huge amount of independent consultants that do cloud. I know people, and there's no continuity of projects. So I know a guy who did a year on a cloud project, and now he's back to release 12, and that's not unusual at all. So that's why I know a couple of other people have asked on the call about, do I do cloud training or do I do release 12 training? And it's like, if you want to be the only guy in the market who knows cloud, independent guy, then you could look at cloud training, and I know people do, but it's where's the work going to come from? Is there going to be continuity of work? And there are very few financial, there is plenty of HCM work around, but as an independent guy, can you access it? You can work for a consultancy, I think. You can work for Certus or one of those cloud specialists on a permanent basis. So for me, I'm kind of holding off for the moment until the market is a bit more definite for cloud, because it's quite a lot of money to invest in Oracle cloud training, and it's a big investment, and I still think it's probably a little bit early, you know.
No, I definitely agree with you there, Aidan, as well. Just if anyone wants some general advice, I would say, just the consultancy, is let's say, you do Aidan's course and you're really into it and you're looking for a job, I would definitely target consultancies in general. At the start, maybe the first 2-3 years, I mean, if you want to go for contract, permanent with them, and then after that, you're definitely because a lot of consultancies would focus on getting you certified in different areas, they keep on top of trends, you see a lot of different sites, and you'd be working with a lot of colleagues who'd be similar to you as well, whereas you might be working in a company by yourself, you might be the only HCM or e-business functional financial guy or person there. So I'd probably focus on consultancy at the start of the career if you want to, and then branch it afterwards, because you'll really benefit from that. They take in a lot of grads as well in these consultancy firms. So, if you go into there, you can kind of get those opportunities that are available.
Yeah. So I got a good question from Salt, actually, is what are the skills? Hopefully I didn't butcher your name. The pronunciation might be great. What are the skills required to move to functional from support? So I actually recorded a video on this yesterday, but the way I see a support into functional is it is a different job, but it's possible to transfer. So the skills I kind of see around support are issue resolution, being able to resolve specific issues, configuration, like understanding the configuration for those issues, and then being able to test, because if you're making any configuration changes or stuff that was overlooked during the project, that you can make the configuration changes. So I guess in terms of building up, transferring from support into functional, I'd start off with what you're probably able to do already, resolve specific features, and then become a process expert, so how your client is able to how your client progresses the process steps through Oracle. So start with the processes that you're familiar with, and then become an order to cash expert or a P2P expert. And then in terms of the 6 key skills, then from a requirements point of view, I think you'd be starting with requirements and testing, and then develop some design to be able to extend Oracle, and a little bit of build as well, and finally work on some objectives and transition skills. But I recorded a video on that, which I'll send to you after the call, okay? So Vinay is asking about Oracle SCM Cloud in Ireland, so I guess it's probably fairly quiet, Connor.
Yeah, I think for SCM in Ireland anyway, what you need to look at is pharmaceutical companies, because they're the ones that use a lot of supply chain. And a lot of those aren't in Dublin, so they'll be around the country. There's not a lot of jobs in general, and from what I don't think anyone has moved to cloud that I would know of, but sometimes companies would do it and you wouldn't really hear about it because they're kind of a bit more siloed than you realize, or they would use big consultancies and a lot of the work get done abroad, just kind of have systems running in Ireland anyway. So I would just focus on looking at LinkedIn profiles of people who work in pharmaceutical companies in Ireland, kind of just see if they update, see what new skill sets they put up on the profiles, and maybe just get an introduction to them and see what happens.
Okay, sounds good. Anyone still on the call wants to ask a question if they want to go off mute, or anyone feel like taking the stage? Okay, so okay. So HCM R12 functional roles available. We talked about I think, PLC pool. We talked about transferring into e-business roles. We talked about the lack of a HCM cloud environment to practice. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second and move to a couple of questions that we got on the survey. Just bear with me for a second. So I think Tony was asking how do you get implementation skills. So Tony, are you coming from support or from a particular kind of narrow area of functional that you currently have skills that you need to build up? I guess that from my point of view, not that many people are trained as business analysts, and Tony's coming from a support background. So Tony, I'll send you on the video as well. I did, but for me, like the great advantage that support people have from an implementation point of view is they understand the processes, the processes that the business use, and this is a really valuable skill and one that I wish I understood more about my own clients' processes. If you're an external consultant, you tend to be focused narrowly on very specific areas, so you don't know the full end-to-end process. And I think support people have a better understanding because they've looked at more issues and they kind of have they've kind of a good idea of what the processes are. And this is really useful in a full project because they can help in testing because they obviously understand how to test the various processes. They can help in design as well because they understand how the current processes work and if a design change is going to break that process, and the requirements as well because they're used to communicating with business people. Support people are used to communicating with business. They understand business concerns, I think, and the demands that business put on IT. So I think they have a good shot of being pretty good at requirements as well. And I think I mentioned testing. So if you're transferring into functional, you're going to have one or two skills that are your core skill set. And if that's support, it's probably around understanding the business processes and how to test. So you would volunteer, you need to volunteer for a project that's in your current client is the way that I did it because I had a reputation for delivery as a technical guy, and then I was able to move into functional and sort of lean on the technical skills that I had. So I had build and test, and I developed the rest of the full 4 skills based on just experience. But my client was very, they did a lot of M&A, so there was a lot of integration. So they liked me as a technical guy because they needed to be able to move data in and out of planning, forecasting, HR, payroll, warehouse systems, and they needed guys who are technically minded. So if you're coming in from a support point of view, I mean, there will be, and you have a good record. For me, it's a lot. Like you're a known quantity if they know what you can do. So if I was a hiring manager, I would definitely look to hire inside where I can better predict what someone is going to do. So I think you've got a good shot. You just kind of need to put your hand up and say, within your own organisation, can I get project experience, even if it's on a volunteer basis, and that's kind of what I would do.
Yeah, no, there's a good example of that. There's a semi-state, so kind of half public company, half private company in a hard-to-reach location in Ireland, let's say. And I knew a guy who really wanted to work in a business, but was finding it quite difficult because he's quite junior. So he took kind of quite a junior job support job in that company. And I said, look, a lot of people seem to leave this company because the location is quite difficult for a lot of people. You know, they want to be close to Dublin, but this place is kind of hard to get to. So he said, look, if you take this junior job, they probably offer you maybe 6 months to get do stuff in your own time because they get to know you. So that exactly happened. Now he's a functional person, and they're giving him lots of training opportunities. They love him because he's very committed to staying in their location, which is a bit tricky to get to. So he just said, look, I'm going to take the support job 6 months, learn everything I can about Oracle in my spare time that I'm there. I'm interested in certification stuff at the same time. So when the moment comes, he's ready to, you know, internal job posting goes up, he's ready to go for it. Yeah, that worked out well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think a mistake I made early in my career with Pfizer, I was there for 10 years, that they didn't really know. I sort of understood that they would know what I could do, but they don't. They just kind of see it as a guy who does technical or whatever. So you have to actually actively have conversations with people and talk to managers who have budgets in your own client and say, what kind of work are you doing? You know, do you know I can do this or that, or do you know what your skills are? And even just showing some enthusiasm will often get you a chance. And it's really a low risk call for the hiring manager because, as I say, they understand kind of where you're coming from. So you've got an interesting question here about how does one progress from being a functional consultant to manager. So I guess for me, that's what I did in the end because a lot of the stuff was done offshore. So technical was offshore, so I moved into functional. And then the functional started to be offshore a bit, so I moved into functional project manager. And you will get clients who are not bothered about taking on permanent staff like Pfizer was. And they had a core team of contracts project managers, of which I was one, who would have done 10, 12 years at Pfizer. So I guess for me, again, it's about delivery. So you kind of make the move, you go from technical into functional, and you spend a little time finding your feet, and then you build up your skills and you become expert functional. And then they promote you to project manager. So it's definitely possible. It's kind of about developing the relationships within that client and delivery. Delivery is a big one. I mean, I think the progression ensures a better income. Like I suppose project managers will probably get paid more than functional consultants, let's say, and job stability. Maybe Connor's got an opinion on this as well.
Yeah, they don't get actually paid as much money, would you believe, project managers usually as well. But you're right in terms of the whole project. But as you said, you're still there 6 points, you'd be there. But more jobs in general, project management there is in functional. So if you look at contract, it's easier.
Yeah. Okay. Tony's asking a follow-up question about practice software. So if it's with EBS and you already have access, then I'm assuming they have a development environment where you can sort of play around on. If not, there are at least 12 environments which are available online, and I'll follow up with you later on in that. Okay. So Jeffrey's asking how to network with relevant peers to get a project. I think LinkedIn is if it's people on your own clients, then to get an internal project, then I think you do the kind of water cooler stuff and kind of get to know people, go to the office and talk to them and figure out what's going on. If it's within your industry, I really recommend going to talk and user groups and events. There's a real trend to set up these events, and it's a great place to network and kind of get in contact with other people who are interested in a project. In terms of path market certification, I'm not certified myself, and I think from what I understand, there are exams available on the web as well that you can have a look at. So I'll follow up with you offline on that, okay? Eric is asking where to start, what module is the most basic, and the answer is, I guess, the one that you're most familiar with. It's probably going to be the most basic for you. So if you're coming from the business and you're a receivables person, then I'd start with receivables or order to cash in some areas. Don't try and go into a module that you don't know anything about, or it'll be quite difficult then because you won't have any knowledge of the subject area. Difference between EBS and Fusion roles, I think we've kind of discussed that. We talked about transferring from support into functional. So this is a really interesting one about will there even be a need for a functional consultant to consider an AI is taking over ERP. So this is from Sandeep, who is one of my coaching clients, but I've been talking to him about AI and kind of what can I do with autonomous databases and stuff. So I guess with AI right now, it's still very narrow focused, and it's very difficult to see it taking over from any of the Oracle roles. But the thing is, because of Moore's law and the price computing power doubles every 12 to 18 months, the pace of change is getting faster and faster. So it's why I moved. Part of the reason I moved from technical into functional is because it was going to offshore. So the jobs that are offshored, in theory, an AI could do some of those jobs at some point in the future. And functional consulting is, I think there's more people skills involved in it, so it will be longer before AI can take over that kind of role. But having said that, I'm not going to wait around. I'm going to build up my skills and get up the value chain and kind of develop full functional skill set. So that I'll be one of the last ones to go if it does happen. That's the way I look at it. How to get a job in cloud, I think we've kind of discussed. It's quite tricky at the moment because there's not a huge amount of roles out there. The roles are kind of cornered by the consulting firms, and like if they're training you up or if they're training one of their own guys up, you're not bringing in a huge advantage of experience over one of their own guys. So it's difficult, I guess, unless your own client is moving to cloud, which would be like the ideal scenario. Tony's asking about SQL or PL SQL as a functional. I don't think you need to know PL SQL as a functional guy. SQL, if there is an advantage in knowing SQL because you can analyze data above and beyond the standard reports. So Oracle's reporting only works module by module, and we all know that the data goes from order management into receivables into GL, and you often need to report on the same data that was an order, now it's in receivables and now in GL, and you can't do that without SQL. So it's kind of a complementary skill rather than a core skill for functional, but it is useful to have, yeah. So this is a question about cloud and fusion and whether they're different career destinations. So specializing in cloud does not, EBS doesn't mean you're specialized in cloud. That's why our fusion, cloud equals fusion, basically. The cloud is the new name for fusion. EBS is the one that's been in the market for 20 or 25 years. It's difficult to say what's the better opportunity. In the long-term future, it's fusion, but if you work in a location where there are only manufacturing clients, then you'd be better off with EBS, because we work in a small market in Ireland and there's just not that many cloud clients, and so it kind of depends on your kind of local market. You know, it's still difficult to say. If you let's say you get certified in cloud, you spend the money in Oracle training, and you get certified, you can't predict whether you're going to be able to get cloud work, or if you're going to be able to get one job or two jobs in a row. It's just not guaranteed. that's what makes it a really difficult decision to figure out what to do. Like I'm still delaying with Fusion because or Cloud because it's just the continuity of emails of continuity work isn't there. So any more questions then from the call, or anyone else want to ask any questions on chat or in or live? Still 7 on, so. Okay, any final points from yourself, Connor? Or?
No, I think it's a really exciting area. I mean, it's. I think a lot of people in the call are here because they want to, improve their life or change things or do something. I think it's a great opportunity, and I do think there's going to be growth in this area because more companies do need ERP software. So I think at Aiden's really good at it. So you gotta know what he's talking about. So and I've had some good feedback from people doing the course. So that's why I'm here on the call because it's all been backed up. So yeah, if you're interested, I'd say do it.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Connor. I guess I'd obviously I work with Connor, so we do collaborate on various sort of initiatives. And if you're interested in having a look around or talking to a recruiter in more detail, I'd really recommend Connor. So just from a wrap-up point of view, just before we finish, I guess what we tried to discuss today was kind of around becoming a functional consultant and what you needed if you were coming in or if you're trying to build up to full functional skill set. Get in touch or develop with a recruiter, get in touch with a relationship with a recruiter, get in touch with Connor, have a look at your market, your CV and kind of the jobs that are in your local market, develop your LinkedIn, and then I'll send on the links which you can have a look at my Functional Launchpad program. So I don't know if there's any more questions. I think we'll wrap it up. Tony, I can do another seminar. If you're interested, I'll contact you directly by email. I'm just going to send my email address for people who want to get in touch with any questions. So, Connor, I hope we should be able to send out the presentation deck again and to anyone that's registered for the call. We'll do that during next week.
Yeah, sounds good. And I've got some information about introduction to contracting that I'll send to you as well. I might have sent it to you before. I can't remember, but I've updated it recently, so I'll send it to you again on Monday. I just sent it with my email there to remind myself. So, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks a lot, Connor, for joining the call. I really appreciate you taking the time out, and I think it's been really valuable. Thanks to everyone else as well for giving up their time on Saturday. I know a couple of you guys got up really early to join the call, so I really appreciate it. We're going to wrap up the call now, and again, I appreciate it. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Have a good weekend, guys. Bye.